As the draft data protection bill makes its way for final passage in the upper house of Grenada's parliament this week, we preview what the final composition of the bill will look like with Grenada's Minister for Legal Affairs. Sections of the bill raised concerns among some members of civil society and the opposition. They argued that the power of the minister and the information commissioners appointed by the minister was too broad. Additionally, concerns were raised over the language associated with Section 33, in which a magistrate gave the information officers sweeping powers to search anyone on the premises in the process of conducting investigations related to the mishandling of data. Also, we sit with two development experts on the report to discuss the ongoing debate over the CBI-funded hotel infrastructure projects on Grenada's northern and eastern flanks. The hotel developments in Levera, Mount Hartman, and Sagesse have become contested sites for acrimony over the physical planning unit's failure to facilitate proper environmental and infrastructural due diligence before greenlighting these projects. All three projects and the Physical Planning Authority of Grenada are now subject to a lawsuit brought against them by the Grenada Land Actors advocacy organization. The group of concerned environmental activists stated, quote, "The basis for GLA's case is that the permissions for the development at Sagesse, Levera, and Mount Hartman had not been properly granted by the PDA, and that the environmental impact assessments, which are a mandated part of the development procedure, either did not happen before development began or showed major deficiencies, including lack of public consultation." During its efforts to uncover this information, GLA members also found that the public register, which is supposed to keep a record of all developments in Grenada, together with the accompanying materials such as environmental impact assessments, was not properly kept by the PDA and was not being made accessible to the public. Unquote. We welcome our guests, Kamal Shihada, Managing Director of the Range Developments Caribbean, economics expert and development consultant Brian Samuel, and Senator Claudette Joseph, Grenada's Attorney General and Minister for Labor, Legal and Consumer Affairs. And here is our host, Dr. Kellon Bob, with this week's editorial titled Why Whistleblowers Matter: The Legacy of Davidson Boudreaux and the Case for a Global South Economic Model. I am Rion Charles. We thank you for joining us.
Viewers and listeners, at this point, we wish to welcome our spotlight guest for this week's episode of the Bub Report, the Attorney General of Grenada, who is also the Minister responsible for Labor and Legal Affairs and Consumer Affairs. Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph will be one of the cadre of ministers piloting the Data Protection Bill before the Upper House of Parliament this week. This week on our program, we will be discussing the Data Protection Bill and other issues pertinent to labor in Grenada. And at this point, I wish to welcome Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph. Senator Joseph, welcome to the Bub Report. I believe this is your second appearance on the program since assuming office. And I give credit to you for still responding to our calls and still responding to our requests. I can't say the same for some of your other colleagues, and I will give credit where credit is due. So I give you your credit for still having open communication with us here on the Bub Report. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob, and it's always a pleasure to be on the Bub Report. I know that Grenadians at home and in the diaspora listen fervently to your program as you disseminate information, and credible information at that. So on that score, I would like to say good morning to all of your viewers and listeners, wherever they may be, and on all your various platforms. You can always count on me to be open and transparent with the people, either in sharing information or doing the work for which they elected me.
All right. And I wish you can say the same to your other colleague ministers as well, those that we have been trying to reach, but they see our messages, but they don't respond to them we are fair on the Bub Report. We are balanced, but we are also firm. Okay,
Well,
so
I would do some intervention, but I am sure any non-response that you would have encountered would not have been intentional at all on their part, and I'm sure they all would have very good reason. But
all right.
I would convey your sentiment.
Well, and I'm sure they can hear this interaction as well. Now, Minister, before we get into the weeds with respect to the data protection bill, now, obviously, the data protection bill came into public discourse recently. But
Yeah.
one of the things that came up around this bill was the idea that this bill was sitting there um, at the level of cabinet. And I'm
Yes.
curious, you're also the Minister of Legal Affairs. I'm curious, are there other pieces of draft legislation that are sitting on a shelf somewhere in the Ministry of Legal Affairs that are in the queue to go before Parliament? Are there any other bills that the public should expect that have been sitting there that have not necessarily been prioritized in your view that needs attention?
And the answer to that is yes.
Mhm.
One of the things that I inherited when I became Attorney General and Minister, as in the case of all ministries, there was a transition report. All ministers received a transition report from their predecessor.
Mhm.
And in the case of the Office of the Attorney General, that included outstanding legislation that the Attorney General and the Cabinet had been working on and intended to take to Parliament. And I would say that that is expected and normal when you have a government transition. So in most instances, it doesn't reflect negatively on my predecessors. Because legislation, there are a number of steps that must be taken before a bit of legislation is brought to the Parliament. And from framing of policy in consultation with the relevant stakeholders to confirming the policy, both at the community level and at the cabinet level, to cabinet again approving the draft legislation. All of that has to happen. And before the legislation is drafted and approved by the cabinet, there's a whole back and forth trading that takes place between the relevant line ministry, the stakeholders, whether they be internal or external, and the office of the Attorney General. So while it is true that there was some legislation that I inherited, not in all cases that will reflect any kind of neglect or delay on the part of government.
Mhm. So
In
there is
the,
not a neglect. Go ahead. Yes.
yes, I was about to say, um, in the case of the data protection bill, though, I would say that there appears to have been some shelving of it for a while. I don't know why that occurred. I don't know if maybe government priorities at the time did not dictate that they deal with it as urgent, but it is a bit of legislation that work started on since 2011 under the previous NDC administration.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just an initiative of government, it was an OECS initiative. All of the Eastern Caribbean states embarked on a movement towards e government and embracing technology for greater efficiency in government services. And that required data protection legislation in all of the OECS member states and territories. And so the data protection bill that is now before the parliament is an OECS model already passed into law in Antigua and on the way in the other OECS countries. So we inherited the draft and we reviewed it together with the Information Communication Technology Department of the Ministry of Economic Development. And we went back and forth a bit before taking it back to cabinet. I say taking to cabinet because the previous cabinet did approve the bill in March 2022. I want to repeat that for listeners. Data protection bill is not, it goes way back to 2011. In 2021, the former government again picked it up and did some more work on it. And the previous government, headed by the now leader of the opposition, approved the bill in cabinet in March 2022. When a bill is approved in cabinet, the next step is to take it to the parliament. The only thing that prevented the last government from taking the bill to the parliament was the election. So this is what we inherited.
Well, yes, correct, Madam Minister and Attorney General. You say it's approved at the cabinet level, but Parliament makes law. Cabinet does not make law. So if they approve for future perusal to the legislative branch of government, the legislative branch of government still has to scrutinize that legislation.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the only thing is, Kellon, in the last dispensation, the cabinet and the lower house of the legislature were identical, literally identical, because remember, there was no parliamentary opposition, save one who was himself elected on the ticket of the former administration. So if it was approved in parliament, in our cabinet, a reasonable expectation, and it would be reasonable for me to say that it would have been approved at the parliament level because they were the same individuals with no opposition, right? So that's the point we are making. So
so you agree then with the previous administration that they ought to have the bill to parliament. There is no disagreement there on your part.
Yes,
on that
yes.
question. Yeah. Okay.
And they said
right.
they said so. They said they do not oppose the bill, but they criticized some of their own work, so to speak.
Correct.
Saying there were certain aspects that needed, review.
Right.
But we could get into that.
Of course, and we will be getting into that. Now, Senator, the bill only came into the public imagination through inquiries by local journalists in Grenada, at least two eagle-eyed journalists, as I would call them. And had these eagle-eyed journalists not really brought their concerns initially to lawyers, attorneys in Grenada, specifically the president of the Grenada Bar Association, that bill might have passed in Parliament without much public outcry and fanfare. Shouldn't you then be giving credit to the members of civil society for raising some of the concerns that are proposed in the bill, as opposed to the dismissive posture the administration took, which seemed to suggest that the concerns that citizens raising were not genuine? You made that point at your last town hall as well. You called it misinformation. You said that these concerns were all political. But you be then given credit for to the journalists and to the Bar Association for raising those concerns in the first place? This is what your administration has been calling for, a more participatory and a more democratic approach to doing things.
Right. So let me answer your question this way.
Yes.
When we inherited the bill, part of the information we inherited the bill suggested that there was consultation with relevant stakeholders on the bill already. And as I said to you, the next step, based on where the process was, because taking an idea from idea to policy to legislation is a process. And the information we inherited suggested that the bill, there was consultation already with relevant stakeholders. So we carried it to the next logical step based on where we inherited. It is the role not only of the media and civil society, but of all citizens to, as you say, be eagle-eyed and to keep government in check, keep the various arms of government in check. by making inquiries and so on. But these inquiries, I must say, they must be well-founded. They must have a basis, all right? And I can tell you, Kellon, when the inquiries were first raised, concerns were first raised, a journalist called me because, as you say, I have remained accessible. So I received a phone call from a journalist who expressed concern. What did I do when I got that phone call? I said, well, as far as I am aware, we've looked at the bill. Our cabinet had gone ahead. We had approved it. But if you say there are concerns, none of us are perfect. So let me have a look again. I looked again together with the lead expert legislative drafter on the bill within the AG's chambers. There were a few things, for example, section 39(2). I suggested to her that perhaps we can delete that section. This is all before the bill went to Parliament. And a few other minor things, but the main thing was 39(2). And we took it, we made the changes as suggested, and we took it to the House. And in the House, at the committee stage, by this time, a whole lot had been said. Some further changes were made, and I'd be frank, the changes that were made in the House were not necessary. They were not necessary. They were made in the spirit of compromise, and so that we might show transparency, and that we are not intending to pull anything on anyone. In fact, the object of the bill is to enhance the constitutionally guaranteed right to privacy. Take it into account.
I get, yes, and we actually will be getting to that. But you said the bill went into committee stage.
Yes.
But the bill would not have gone into committee stage had it not been the advocacy of the opposition. In fact, the opposition advocated for.
All bills go to committee stage. All bills go to committee stage, and the purpose of committee stage is to examine the bill before the House.
Clause by clause,
yes. By clause, so as to make changes when necessary. And what I'm saying to you is that the changes that were made at the committee stage, and we can go through the changes that were made at the committee stage,
yes.
Right? We had, for example, section 33. That's the one dealing with the arrest warrant. And part of that section says that an authorized officer who is going to execute a warrant issued by a magistrate may require any person on the premises to give information. And the word require there seemed to have troubled the very people who inserted the word in the draft in the first place. And so, in the spirit of compromise, and to show that we are not intending on trampling on anybody's rights. We change required to ask, but it really doesn't change the spirit and intent of the section.
But even in that section 33 there, in respect of that authorized officer, Dr. Francis Alexis Casey now, I have to make sure I get the title right. Dr. Francis Alexis Casey, on his appearance on the Bub Report 2 weeks ago, he expressed concerns that that authorized officer would be given too much broad powers in respect of their role on that commission. It's a sort of a very arbitrary powers that these authorized officers can get before going to the court for a warrant in determining who that person is that they need to get a warrant for. So that part of the legislation didn't change. But you're saying, yes, go ahead.
So I did hear Dr. Alexis say towards the end of the presentation, and he's quite correct in that closing statement that he made, that sitting where he sat then, he could not see any of the bill that would cause him to think that the provisions of the bill might be weaponized or politicized to the detriment of the people, so that or used as a weapon or politicized against the people. That is absolutely correct. That was his conclusion overall on the bill. Now, in relation to the specific said when he appeared on another program is that there are no regulations yet. And that is correct. And the process we are following here with this bill is identical to any process in relation to a law that would require regulations to support it. And in the case of the data protection bill, a lot of the constraints, the restrictions, the parameters in which the authorized officer would operate, the qualifications that an authorized officer should have, all of these things will be contained in the regulations to the bill when those regulations come. So if you want to further understand what I'm saying, you might want to have a look at the Data Protection Act 2020 of Jamaica, where you have very similar provisions. In fact, in Jamaica, the commission, one commissioner, it's one person that decides, whereas in ours it's three, right? Which gives greater protection to the citizen, one commissioner. And the powers of the commissioner they are very much broader. And the authorized agent, you have to go to their regulations to get the details that Dr. Alexis was referring to. And with the greatest of respect to him, I think that little detail, that little nuance should have been explained by him and the president, because the president made the point that there are no regulations yet. But what he didn't say is that this is quite normal, because when you pass in a law, the first thing you do is that you pass the act in parliament. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you need regulations to fully bring the provisions of the law into force. And those regulations will come subsequent. Now, when an act is passed in Parliament, in the upper and the lower house, it becomes the law of the land. But it is not in force until a certain event happens, a publication of a commencement date in the Gazette, for example. So until that event happens, it is not a law in force. And normally, if a law requires regulations to support it, that commencement date will be postponed until the regulations are ready and available to be gazetted. So I am saying all of this to say to you, Kellon, and your listeners, that there's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise. I mean, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33. And I think some of those noises you say, with respect to you, you're saying it's not warranted. But I believe some of those noises were warranted. But, we can agree to disagree on that. But let us talk about the amendments. Now, one of the amendments in respect of the appointment of the commissioner speaks to requiring the Governor General to work in tandem with the Prime Minister, on the advice of the Prime Minister, in consultation with the leader of the opposition, to appoint the commissioners. Is it going to be the chair of the commission? Is it going to be all of the commissioners?
Right. So you're speaking here to Section 24. So yes, you're speaking here, Kellon, of Section 24 of the Act or the bill.
Correct.
It's the bill that establishes the Information Commission.
Correct.
And the original draft, you mind if I
take that call? Yes, take that call. Yes.
Types of legislation. The norm, very normal to have the line minister to have to perform these functions in these types of legislation, right? Very few bits of legislation you will have the GG. So you're talking about the Integrity Commission, the Public Service Commission, other such high-level and constitutional commissions. In countries where you have the electoral commissions, you would have the GG doing that. So this amendment that we made to Section 24(2) of the legislation at the committee stage in Parliament, again, was another compromise, which wasn't necessary, but which I would say strengthened the bill and perhaps appeased people who have concerns somewhat. So it now, as opposed to the minister, the Governor General appoints the three-man commission on the recommendation of the Prime Minister in consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. And speaking here, I can think of no other bit of legislation where the Prime Minister recommends to the GG in consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. So that might well be a first in Grenada.
Why not take that further and have consultation with civil society as well? I mean, the Leader of the Opposition only represents the interest of one group of Grenadians, if you think about it.
The Leader of the Opposition represents the interest of a group that includes civil society. He represents, between the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister, they represent all of the people of Grenada.
Okay.
So that would not have been necessary, really. And so if you go to Section 24(3), the Governor General is the one who appoints the chairman from the membership of the committee. So it's the Governor General.
On the advice of the Prime Minister?
Normally, yes, on the advice. The only time the Governor General does not take the advice of the Prime Minister is where the statute says in his own deliberate judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here it's on the advice of the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm. And that is Section 33, of course, warrant to enter and search. As we know in our system, the courts is who decides on a warrant. We know that, and that there has to be probable cause. We know that in respect of how our system works. So you go to court. It doesn't necessarily mean that the judge would agree with the wanting a warrant. It has to be justifiable. So I think people need to understand that as well. So perhaps that's what the noise you were talking about, but you just can't go to somebody's house. Yes.
There is no difference here. Mm-hmm. This bill recognizes that. That is why it requires the commission or the authorized person to make an application on oath to a magistrate. And the reason why it's on oath, you have to give evidence in affidavit form on oath that will satisfy the magistrate that there is good and reasonable grounds to issue a warrant. And if the magistrate is not so satisfied, the warrant will not be issued. All right? And I want to make the point as well that in our ordinary criminal procedure code, I think it's either section 16 or 17, there's a section that deals with the power of the court to issue warrants of arrest, search, and seizure, and so. And if you go to that section, it's way more intrusive in terms of the powers of the police and so in obtaining and issuing and executing a warrant than this here. Remember, this section here only allows the magistrate to issue a warrant of search and seizure on a data user. A data user is specifically defined in the legislation as a public body, so you're talking statutory and state-owned enterprises, or a private entity, so you're talking businesses and so, who receive personal data, personal information from the citizen in the course of conducting business. So it's not third parties, it's not journalists. I saw some concerns expressed somewhere that perhaps it might intrude on a journalist's right to acquire and disseminate or gather and disseminate information. Nothing like that, because the Act only applies to data users as defined by it. Nobody else.
What
Anybody.
about political activists who might, in the exercise of public interest, happen upon information that might be of the public interest, who have access to that information? Shouldn't they not be concerned?
About what should they be concerned about?
Well, about having access to information that might be in the public interest, that the commission might say, well, actually, this information is not necessarily in the public interest. How did you get that information?
Right. So the commission will not have jurisdiction over such third parties. The
Okay.
commission only has jurisdiction over public and private bodies. So private bodies meaning like the financial institutions, the banks, the credit unions, your lawyer, your doctor, people like that in private business to whom you go to do business, and in the course of business you have to give this information. So if it happens that a third party comes by the information, that third party will not be subject to the sanctions of the legislation. If a data user, so one of these private entities or a public body, a government department or so, gives that information to the third party outside of the ambit of the legislation, then it is the person who gives the information that can be sanctioned under the act, not the third party.
So the person who gives that information, say that person gives information to me as a journalist. Although I think in Grenada there is not a journalistic registry in the way that lawyers are properly registered. So I think even in the context of defining a journalist, that is very open-ended to me. But I'm saying that can be a loophole there that can also be exploited. Again, I'm a layman. I'm not a lawyer. You are the expert here. That's why you came here. But yeah, go ahead.
The loophole, I'm trying to understand the loophole you're concerned about. Because
Yeah,
I'm here trying to clear up.
Yes, you said it would exclude journalists. Who do you define as a journalist? Do you define as a journalist someone who works with a particular media establishment, or do you also define a journalist as someone who calls themselves a self-declared journalist, for example? Because someone could get up in the morning and say that they're a journalist.
Especially in a Grenadian context, Kelowna, I'll be very honest with you, I wouldn't want to venture into defining what a journalist is.
Right.
What I want to make clear to assist in quelling some of the concerns that I hear is that the Information Commission will have no jurisdiction over journalists in Grenada or media workers. The Information Commission under the Act will only have jurisdiction over public bodies and private bodies to whom personal unique information is given directly by an individual in the course of doing business. So passport office, immigration, the banks, the electoral office, the entities, the public departments, and so that you share personal data with, so that you can get your business done.
Okay.
They are the ones who will be subject to the commission.
So the third parties, in other words, in essence, what you're saying to me is the sender of the information, the person who transmits information, who are defined either as private bodies in the context of people who work in the private sector, public bodies in the data users. Yes, data users. You are correct. These data users, whether in the private or public sector, who transmits information to third parties. The third parties would not be liable, but the people who are responsible for transmitting that information would be liable.
Any sanction to be imposed would be on the data user, because they're the ones who are subject to it.
So the burden would be on the data user now, again, at that level.
Now you get it.
Okay.
Yes.
I see. Okay. That was, thank you for that education. I'm not a lawyer.
My pleasure. I anytime.
Yes. Now, let us also talk about Section 45. Now, Section 45 says, and I noticed there were no amendments there, but it said no criminal or civil proceedings shall lie against the commissioner or against a person acting on behalf or under the direction of commission, or anything done anything done, reported or said in good faith. Now, to me,
Mhm.
good faith seems to be very open ended there. But that aside, um, how does that square up against uh, the responsibility or the obligation for due process rights in our system? So that section is saying, and again, perhaps as a layman, I do not understand in the way that particular legislation is written or has been written on similar commissions in the past. But the way I read this is, uh, if I want to countersue the commission as a data user, I may not be able to do so, even though the courts does grant me the due process right to appeal.
No, if a commission, no, there's a standard principle of law
Mhm.
that says that decisions, basically decisions of all public bodies, are generally susceptible to review by the courts. So that if a public body or a government appointed agency or entity like the commission would be,
Mhm.
does something that breaches the principles of natural justice, that breaches the constitutional rights, and because they would be acting on behalf of the state, that breaches the constitutional rights of the citizens, these acts can be challenged in the court, and the court has the power to review the actions of the public entity and offer redress. All right,
Mhm.
and that principle of law will not change. It lies all the time. This section 45 here is usually standard in these types of legislation. You will find it in many bits of legislation throughout Grenada, where persons who are asked to act in public offices, right? Things like planning and development authority, now and so. I'm sure if you go through those laws, you will see that kind of protection being offered to members of boards of statutory bodies and commissions. I'm sure it's in the Integrity Commission legislation and so on. Once you are acting in good faith in the execution of your duty, so that once you are taking an action that, in your view, is in the best interests of the task of the people and the task with which you are charged,
Mhm.
once you are taking a step that you think genuinely is in furtherance of the undertakings that you are required to undertake under the statute, you will be protected. You will be protected from criminal liability and civil liability. That's standard. There's nothing strange or untoward about that
Okay.
section.
But
If
but
they
but
go
the
out
state,
of the scope
go
of the
ahead.
authority, if they go out of the scope of the authority, if there is an unreasonable exercise of a discretion given by the act, and a citizen is harmed, there's injury done to the citizen because somebody went on a frolic of their own, or they acted outside of what the law permitted them to do, or they were given a discretion in the law and they abused that. These matters will remain subject to review by the court.
Mhm. Okay.
So
But
that's what.
but that does not give the state immunity from litigation. I mean,
No, it does
the
not.
unions sued the state and won on the
Yeah, it does
pension
not.
matter. So
It does
okay,
not.
all right, okay.
Mhm.
So now, the bar association
If you
is.
want to
Go ahead. Go
just let
ahead.
me try a little bit. If you just backpedal a bit. So, for
Yes.
example, say in the execution of a search warrant, right? The authorized officer goes and beats up somebody or acts unreasonably and destroys or damages equipment, that kind of thing, going outside of the scope of the authority, the reasonable scope of the authority, Section 45 will not protect you.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay. So the commissioners, obviously, in the legislation, it talks about the specific code of ethics there,
Mhm.
that they would be required to follow. And of course, if they get
Right.
out of
And
that,
So this code of ethics now will come in the regulations.
Within the regulations.
Mhm.
Okay, very well.
Yes.
Now, on the question of the regulations, what is the chronology? What is the timeline in respect of when those regulations are implemented, when those regulations come down? We know that the bill passes in the Senate this coming week. It goes to the Governor General's desk for signature. When do those regulations
The
come forth?
regulators, there isn't a deadline per se on bringing the regulations into force, and the regulations would not need parliamentary approval. The regulations will be settled and promulgated under the hand of the minister by order
Mhm.
published in the Gazette.
It will be gazetted. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So there
Very
isn't a
well.
time frame for that.
Okay. But I'm a subscriber to the Government Gazette, so I
Mhm.
will be looking out
You
for
will
these
get it.
regulations. Yes. Now, Madam Attorney General, the Bar Association is said to have sent a letter to your offices. Have you received the letter, and how will their concerns shape your government's approach to piloting the bill next week when the bill comes before the upper house?
Yeah, so I have been in communication with the president of the bar from day one. And I requested the bar to send the concerns in writing. The president indicated that a dossier was being prepared that would be sent. And I look forward to receiving that. I'm sure it will offer much assistance. I've had a meeting with the president this week, earlier on this week. No, last week.
Yes.
Last week, Thursday or thereabout, right? I met with the president, and a letter was handed to me, but the letter doesn't go further than what was already said in public. So, for example, the letter say, for example, the definition of authorized officer is too vague, but it doesn't say why it's too vague. It doesn't say, well, we recommend this definition instead. And that's the general tone of the letter. It's basically one page comprising a number of one-liners, revisit this, review that, this is too wide, this is too narrow, but nothing more. So we would have to have some more engagement so that the bar can more clearly and in detail articulate to the Office of the Attorney General their concerns. And of course, these are my professional colleagues, and they know that what we can see from the AG's office, we can see the wisdom in the recommendations. We will consider them for amendments. But I have not gotten substantial suggestions for amendments to the bill from the bar.
But
But we
Minister,
are in
wouldn't you concede that this is putting the cart before the horse? In other words, you brought the legislation to Parliament, and it was only after some citizens raised concerns that we now having consultations on the legislation. Although, notwithstanding, you said legislation was held in the past. Although the Bar Association said that they can't remember having any consultations on this
well,
legislation in the past.
my brother,
Yes.
government is a continuum.
Uh huh.
Government is a continuum, meaning that government continues. The persons who administer the government may change from time to time, but government decisions, the decisions of the past government bind this current government because government continues. It is a continuum. So if we inherit a bill that is at the stage where it just has to go to Parliament. The only thing that prevented it from Parliament is an intervening election. And the supporting information suggests that consultations took place. We have to take that in good faith and move forward if it is in the interest of the people and if it supports government policy to move forward, which is what we
Yeah,
did. So
I don't think that is in dispute. I don't
I'm
think that is
sorry.
in dispute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So let me
Yeah.
finish. So having done that, and moving forward, and some of the people who felt they should be consulted, they come forward and they say, hey, we were not consulted, right? we are doing what we should have done. We've made some changes since up to the committee stage. The bill is scheduled to be in the Senate next week, but up to a few days ago, I sat with the president of the bar, and we agreed that the bill can be amended as all other bills that pass in Parliament, as all other bills. Amendments may occur. So far, I have received no reason from the Bar Association, no dossier as promised, that would cause me to say to my cabinet colleagues, here we have these suggested amendments, let's do them before we go forward.
There's so specific operational suggestions did not come forward from the bar. No. You said that they just made very open-ended suggestions, but not very clearly operationally definable suggestions that you can work with through the piloting process of the legislation.
You said it much better than I could have.
Okay, but now the Prime Minister also met with the Media Workers Association, though the Media Workers Association need to be critiqued for their meeting with the Prime Minister. There's nothing wrong with meeting with the Prime Minister, but at least they should inform the general membership, because the membership did not know about the meeting. And Mr. Gerard Joseph, I'm talking to you, they did not know about the meeting until it was published by the Government Information Service. The Media Workers Association says that they are still studying the bill. But have they put forward any suggestions?
I will share with you too, Dr. Bob, that I met with the Media Workers Association on Friday. Mm-hmm. We had a sit down, and I think generally they did express the same concern, Section 33 in particular, and we were able to discuss it. I was able to hopefully shed some light. And I did not get specific recommendations for amendment from the Media Workers Association at that meeting. Okay. They asked me, I think on some level they were relying on the bar to send me the promised dossier, and they asked me whether I had gotten that, and I disclosed to them what I got, which was the letter I'm speaking to now. I actually pulled the letter up, showed them I had the letter in hand at the meeting, and read from the letter for them some of what was raised by the bar so far. And I think there was general agreement that some details need to be provided, because with what I got, there wasn't to meet with them again. They made some good suggestions, including that we should perhaps engage in further public education on the bill and consultations, which I will take to heart and ensure that my colleagues and I oblige.
Very well. Now, final matter on the data protection bill, because I want to respect your time. It's almost time. It's lunchtime now, but let us talk about the bill. The bill has language in respect of whistleblower protections.
Yes.
There currently is no whistleblower legislation in Grenada. When those regulations are advanced, would there be any gazetting around what the whistleblower function would look like? And when do you anticipate as a government that we would have some kind of whistleblower protection proposals for some data users that would be coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so this bill, as you say, I think it will be the first bit of legislation. It could be subject to correction, but thinking this is the first bit of legislation that would actually have some kind of protection for whistleblowers. So that is commendable. In the regulations, as you quite correctly suspect, there would be some details as to who would be a whistleblower, what would be, considered exercising the whistleblower option, and the like. So the regulations are still being worked on. They've not been completely fleshed out. As I said, this is an OECS draft. It's an OECS effort. And in terms of overall whistleblower legislation, I can't say that at present this is on the legislative agenda of government, but we have no difficulty if all of the relevant stakeholders think, I said all, I don't think I mean all, but if the relevant stakeholders think that it would be good and wise for us to consider such legislation, of course, we are here to represent the interests of the people. So we are willing to engage on the possibility of
As I was, yes,
legislation.
as I was with the previous administration, I vehemently and I still passionately advocate for there to be a Freedom of Information Act. I am now going to
Yes.
also add for there to be a Whistleblower Protection Act as legislated before Parliament, so that people who reveal information that is in the public interest, that government might try to reveal, that these people are protected. I feel very strongly about that.
Right. So I can tell you, in my engagement with the media workers on Friday, we did discuss the Freedom of Information Act. It is on the legislative agenda of government, and there is an old draft that we agreed we would work together to update with a view to taking to Parliament. They of course, they are to send to me a document, outlining some of the matters they would like to see as journalists included in an Freedom of Information Act. So that was something we discussed at length.
Okay, very well. Two final questions, Minister Joseph, as I have you here. The first one has to do, I'm not too sure if we have, I believe we have, we currently have an acting labor commissioner, or has that role been made permanent for acting commissioner?
No, the acting labor commissioner, she holds the substantive post of deputy labor commissioner.
Okay.
So she's in the role of acting labor commissioner now.
Where are we with exploring a position for filling that position, the position of a labor commissioner?
Oh, well, we would have to do the relevant advertising and interview of relevant interested parties.
Mhm.
So we are working on that. But sitting down, and I must say the acting labor commissioner is settling quite nicely in the role.
So the concerns that you had, you said that the previous labor commissioner was not a good fit. That was a very open-ended way of describing it, in my opinion. But you said that that person was not a good fit. Would you say that those issues that the previous labor commissioner had, you're not seeing those issues with the person acting in this role now?
Well, very different individuals. So I would say the department is settling down nicely and getting on with our work.
So it was more of an interpersonal set of issues there, not necessarily the quality of the performance of that person, was it?
You know what? Yeah, let the matter rest, and let me wish the former labor commissioner all the very best in her future endeavors. And so I think it's time for us to move on.
Okay, very well. Okay, and finally, yes, finally, let us talk about minimum wage. I know that you have a minimum wage advisory committee. I believe that advisory committee, or at least some on that advisory committee, would also be dealing with the matter of pension reform, which is another urgent and pressing issue that must be dealt with on the heels of the judgment that came down from the OECS Supreme Court last year. Now, I know that the committee has been constituted. Where are we with respect to recommendations that they have advanced? Have they advanced any recommendations as
Which,
yet? And
which committee
that
are you referring to?
minimum wage advisory committee, not the
Minimum,
pension committee.
right?
Minimum wage.
Okay, so no, the minimum wages advisory committee, they are doing their work in three main stages. Or phases. The first phase was what they've completed already, examining the state of things, the current minimum wage, the factors that were considered when that minimum wage order was promulgated in 2011. How circumstances have since changed, all of the relevant documents drawn locally, regionally, and internationally, including from the ILO, and so that they can get a sense of where the country is in terms of minimum wages. The next phase is what they're embarking on now, is the consultative phase, where they are meeting with all the relevant stakeholders, employers, employees, and all different sectors. They've done quite a few already. There's another one scheduled for Wednesday. It's been advertised for the GBSS auditorium on Wednesday. There might be a change of venue there. So these now are the public consultations and direct consultations with stakeholders. For example, they've met with the Chamber of Commerce already, the Employers Federation, the Hotel and Tourism Association. I think they had some meetings with some of the agricultural persons involved in the agro-processing sector. So we're going to be covering all sectors in these consultations and hearing from people their views on how this matter should be treated with, what the minimum wages should be like, what should be taken into account, where new categories like media workers, people in the creative industry, people in ICT, where these workers should also be included in the minimum wages order. And having gathered all that information after all the consultations complete, which we hope to complete by at least by the middle of May, they will then collate and analyze all information and make recommendations to me as Minister of Labor, which I will take to the cabinet.
Okay. All right. Okay. Senator, the Honorable Claudette Joseph, thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report this week. I felt that this was a very important conversation in fleshing out the data protection bill, because I believe you were able to answer some of the questions that I've had. And, it's something that we have been covering here on the Bub Report, starting with Dr. Alexis, continuing with the president of the Bar Association, Mr. Sylvester, and continuing with yourself. And in the interest of balance, it was important that your voice as minister be heard on this issue as well. So thank you for your appearance on the program.
I look forward to coming back. And I say to all stakeholders, any law passed in the Parliament of Grenada can be amended or even repealed, so that if we proceed to Parliament on any legislation with which you have concerns, even if the law is already passed, feel free to reach out to me as the Attorney General, and we will take those concerns to heart and engage in any amendment that we need to, or even repeal of a legislation if it's required. But rest assured that we are committed to the people of Grenada. I, in particular, personally, I feel very strongly about the protection of the fundamental rights and freedoms of our people. And I assure you, I will engage in no act that can potentially infringe on those rights, at least not knowingly. And if you find that I am threading in that direction, feel free to say so, and I will step back and take a look.
You rest assured, I will be saying so, irrespective of which government is in power. Because as you said, government is a continuum. The role of media also ought to be a continuum in the way that we hold government accountable.
Oh, sure. And we look forward to being held accountable. That's part of what we signed on for. Mm-hmm. But we do everything fairly and with balance.
And that's what it should be about. So have your other ministers answer their phones when we call, in the interest of fairness and balance as well. Senator Joseph, thank you for your appearance on the Bub Report this week. Viewers and listeners, Senator Claudette Joseph, the Attorney General, Minister for Labor, Legal Affairs and Consumer Affairs. The bill, the Data Protection Bill, which is still in its draft stage, will be moving to the Senate next week, where it is expected to be finalized before going to the Governor General for her signature, and then it becomes the law of the land. Of course, All legislation is subject to amendments, as we know, and that is the function of the legislative arm of government. So, viewers and listeners, please stand by. We will be right back with the panel segment of the week.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
Listeners, I see Michael already smiling. He anticipates what I will say. My good friend.
Yeah, and I put my head on a block and I offer Mr. Brother Bishop the scalpel to cut it off.
The political leader has said several times up to last night that is not a reflection of her personal views or the views of the party. And you understand, George, how election.
Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching. Viewers and listeners, we welcome you back to the Bub Report. Now this week, we will sit with two development experts as our panel segment, and those two experts are experts in development who straddle different areas of the development spectrum to examine the role of burgeoning CBI investment projects in Grenada and in parts of the OECS. 3 mega CBI projects are currently underway in Grenada, being developed on land once deemed sacred and sacrosanct to development and environmental protection. Our experts for this conversation are Mr. Brian Samuel, an economist by training and financial analyst / public-private partnership expert. Mr. Samuel was the head of a public-private partnership at the Caribbean Development Bank, where he spearheaded a joint initiative of the CDB, World Bank, and the Inter-American Development Bank to improve the enabling environment for PPPs in the Caribbean and to build up a pipeline of bankable projects. He spent 20 years with the International Finance Corporation, where he led financing and PPP deals in the Caribbean, Africa, and beyond. Notable transactions included the Haiti Flour Mill, the Trinidad and Tobago Methanol Company, the La Source Hotel in Grenada, Uganda Telecoms, Air Tanzania, and ecotourism concessions for South African national parks. Prior to joining the CDB, Mr. Samuel was vice president at Castalia Strategic Advisors, where he undertook consultancy assignments for the World Bank and other multinational agencies. Mr. Samuel is also a proud Grenadian of St. David's heritage. He's also someone whose interests are reading, writing, sailing, and traveling off the beaten path. He actually also recently wrote a book. And our second panel segment guest, who I understand is also A regular viewer of the Bub Report, who is also making his first appearance on the program, is Kamal Sehada. Kamal, who is the managing director and member of the board of Range Development's investment group, has direct responsibility for the company's development activities. Under his leadership, the development philosophy has won numerous awards and accolades. He said all of our company's resorts have been awarded Best New Caribbean Hotels from numerous industry publications, including CNN, Condé Nast, to name a few. He's an experienced entrepreneur and was the founder of Diamond Line Hotel Supply Company, which is a leading supplier of FF&E and OS&E to major hotels across the Middle East. Kamal has spearheaded Rain's CSR activities and has been personally involved in many of Range Development's activities. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from the University of Libya, as well as a Master's in Structural Engineering. Gentlemen, welcome to the Bub Report to the both of you, and it's a pleasure having both of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Kamal, I was not aware that you studied in Libya. That's fascinating.
Actually, I lived in Libya for 24 years. You know, I'm Palestinian origin, so we are refugees. So my dad landed in Libya, and I was there since 1955 till 1977.
I'm learning so much about you today. You're also Palestinian. As you know, the Grenadian, historically, the non-aligned movement has been aligned to the Palestinian struggle. So we should talk offline about that. But Kamal and Brian, it would appear that the both of you bring to the table expertise in development. There, however, appears to be a departure in your approaches to development. Kamal, you say that development should be a winner-take-all approach in respect to the benefits it brings to the society. Whereas Brian, you come from the development perspective from the place that development comes at a heavy cost and that excesses of development must be tempered in such a way as to preserve what is unique about the country. What say you, gentlemen? Kamal, since you are first-time guest, I would want to begin with you. Would that be an accurate interpretation of how you view development, sir?
No, definitely not. Definitely.
Okay.
You know, let's talk, because we are talking about the subject of environment and development.
Yes.
You know, these are a twin. Wherever you go, you will find development and you will find environment. And unfortunately, these twin is, I don't want to say against each other, but they are in two different lines. If we are looking from the angle of the development only from environment, we will not have airport, we will not have roads, we will not have ports, we will not have, you know, anything of the civilized. I don't want to call it civilized, but the necessity of a society to be built. And the same thing, if we look only to development and we don't look to the environment part of it, there's also destruction of environmental and historical, whatever it is. So in my opinion, that such developments have to be looked at from all angles, see what the pros and see what cons, and try to make the best out of both them. They cannot be perfect here 100%. They cannot be perfect here 100%. So we have to look from all angles. You know, I don't say that my specialty is only construction. No, I look to the cost of construction. As I said, I'm taking it from all angles. What the impact on the society, what the impact on the environment, what the impact on the economy, what the impact, all angles have to be put together, analyzed, and see what direction to go in.
Brian, do you agree with Kamal's position here? It would appear as if the both of you seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet, if you will, from the same songbook.
We are. I am not anti-development at all. That's what I spent my entire career doing. I finance hotels all over the place. So it's not that I'm against building of hotels at all. I'm an economist, and my big issue with the whole CBI program and some of these projects, including Mr. Shaheda's, is the use of resources. Is that the right allocation of resources that we need to do as a small island developing state that's seeking to develop our own path? And my contention is that the problem with the CBI model is that I'm not in it. When I say bankers are not in it. Bankers do a very important function. You may not like them, they're like lawyers and dentists, but they actually do an important function. They do this thing called due diligence. And due diligence is a nightmare for the proponent of the project, because the proper banker, a development banker, will look at every single aspect of the project, inside out, literally under every rock, and look in any cranny. We look at the market side, the structure of the project, the costs, the cash flows, the environmental impact assessment, the social impact, all of these things. And I find it interesting that, Kemal, yes, you say you're interested in the protecting the environment, but your project didn't really have an auspicious beginning in that regard, did it? Because sorry, I got dogs going crazy outside.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that happened under your watch and your project was the destruction of the wetlands that was there. Do you remember? There was a huge outcry by myself, among many other people, about the first thing that we knew of what was happening at Sagesse was that 2 or 3 tractors came and destroyed the wetlands and filled it all in. And I believe you yourself said, oh, the tractor driver made a mistake. And no, we didn't mean to do that. Well, words are fine, but deeds are what happened. And Sagesse, as we know it, is completely gone. So the environmental impact assessment, I don't know how in-depth that was. I don't know whether it would pass muster with the World Bank. But my aspect is, because we're financing these hotels with the sale of passports, there is no bank coming in saying, is this a good project? Does it make sense? Which is what happens. So the passport model is flawed because there is no due diligence. And that's
Kamal's Brian's theory of the case here is that the way that CBI development projects are financed, it's not necessarily financed as you would say by conventional financial institutions. Because it's not financed by conventional financing institutions, the theory of the case is that it leaves an opportunity for there to be, shall we say, not care and due diligence for how development should be conducted in a proper way. Your thoughts on that idea?
My thoughts on that. I do agree that there's a lot of failure and what I call it in CBI projects or developments. But let me talk about self. It's not my business to talk about others or what's going with CBI, or how I talk about our project and our model. Our model is totally different what the others are doing. Selling, let me call it, I don't want to call it passports, but selling citizenships, collecting the money and building. We are doing it in a different way. We secure full finance of the project before we started, through our financiers, through our bankers, through finance houses. So we have, and this is why, if you look at our history or our footprints, we have developed 2 of the major hotels in the Caribbean, and we finished on time. We started and we finished, where you don't find any other CBI developer that have done this. I know a lot of projects started not only in Grenada, but in all the Caribbean islands that started and never finished till today. And you can see also,
you said they started, but they never finished. Why is that? Is it because of the way that the CBI program is set up? That
it's not the CBI, because of the way CBI is there as a way of financing. But you cannot work only in CBI. I sell one citizenship, I go and buy some blocks, I sell one citizenship. You must have a cash flow, which is, I agree with Brian. You must have planning for the project. You must have a timeline for the project. And this is all have to be together. And this is our model, actually. And this is why we were successful. Maybe, I don't know whether you heard about our 2 projects, Park Hyatt and Kids.
And Dominica as well. Yes, I've heard of
Dominica. Actually, from today, it have changed to Intercontinental, and our what you call it, progress here in Grenada. In Grenada, just let me just highlight a little bit here. In Grenada, there is no 5-star chain hotels till today. We are the first one. And Six Senses that we are building is the best brand in the world for the last 3 years. And by the way, everything I'm saying, it's documented and you can check it. It's the best brand in the world for the last 3 years. And we are the best of all Six Senses. So this is have a big, big impact on the economy of the country. And if we want to look to what Grenada economy, let me go out from the subject of further. A lot of people talk about agriculture, a lot of people, it's tourism. But tourism with the real understanding of tourism. Tourism is not only an airport or a van or a car to take you or tour organizers or a hotel room. It's much bigger than this. And there is countries living on tourism. And the one missing in Grenada, which is I tried and I'm still trying, is the supply chain. Supply chain. You want your agriculture to succeed, you can supply. You want your industry, small industry, this can be included in the tourism sector. Because with all my due respect, a lot of people talk about agriculture. If you look to agriculture, and I went to deep study because I'm trying to make the first hydroponic, and actually this is at the social work, first hydroponic agriculture on the island. And we are working now with ADTS, which is non-profit organization. I'm not interested in doing business, but we are working with non-profit organizations in trying to develop part of this sector in agriculture, which is already we raised funds for them. And we are working, we have plans for 3-4 years. So tourism is the main, when I said about agriculture, average age of farmers here is about 57 years old. That means Grenada in 10 years will have no food. It's the highest price ever. I have been to about 140 countries for agriculture products. It's the worst quality. I have been also to 140 countries here. So this have to be developed, and development is a chain. We cannot say, a lot of people, they say agriculture, agriculture, agriculture. If we cannot feed ourselves, how we can export? So tourism is a good sector to work in, and you can check the budgets of of the country, and you will see how much it's contributing to the economy. So I'm an engineer, as I said, I'm a builder, but at the same time, we think about the society that we are coming to work in, and we are taking all this into consideration.
But Kamal, I don't think the issue is. I don't think the issue is an either-or proposition. I think the issue is the extent of the development that, in many respects, sort of, I guess, upends the what is unique about a particular country, a particular place. I think that's Brian's theory of the case. So how do you respond to the idea?
I agree. I didn't answer this part, but
yes.
Brian mentioned about the wetlands, and we backfilled it and whatever it is. Yeah. And I'm not talking opinions. I'm talking science. Mr. Brian, have you done any? We are calling it a salt pond. A salt pond means a land with salt. Have you made any test about the soil in there? By the way, we have removed from this pond, we are not backfilling. We removed 100,000 cubic yards of sludge, and it's already there. You can come and see it. Within this sludge of 100,000 cubic yards, there is not even one drop of crystal, of salt. We went and we have done historical study. We went to the people who were living there, and we found out how it was before and what it is now. So we did the water analysis. We did everything. Unfortunately, we asked for all these things. We asked for all this when they came.
Why did environmentalists? The only reason I know about it was because the environmentalists made an outcry. Not lay people like you and me. People know about this.
Brian. I tried. I'm the one who contacted them, and I have a lot against them. How they are not personal, not how they are practicing. The project had been announced in 2021. And it's the time for environments to go in during the design and join. I invited them. They never turned up. Nobody turned up. And they only, and this is what I know about Grenada, as soon as a project starts, they go in demonstrations and all that. They don't do anything before that. You know,
so we're just a bunch of useless people who just like to make a bunch of noise once you
I'm
start.
not talking about you. I'm not talking about you, Brian. I'm talking in general.
But that's just basically what you said. Nobody does anything until you put a tractor.
You gave a statement. You gave a statement of what that we back to the pond and other. I asked for witnesses to come and see what's going on, and I'm asking you here: can you present even to the pub report the tests that you have, scientific tests that you have made? And I'm willing, as I said, to give a small example. They came to me and they said this is the most archaeological part in Grenada. And I have been approached by people from the museum, and they said that this archaeology, and it was the heart of Grenada. I did myself finance them to come and dig around. And they did dig around, and they didn't find anything. I'm not here.
Is that the museum you said you financed? Okay.
I financed. Correct. Two people who are, Peter and Jonathan, who are working in the museum and making some studies. I financed them, and they came here. And to be with all my due respect to everybody, they gave me the preliminary report that there is nothing. And when I asked for the final report, they have been pushed by the environments not to write it.
Well, I would be following up on that with the museum for sure to find out if there's a final report.
I'll give you the names. But it's Peter and Jonathan who are working with the museum.
Okay, but Brian, you've heard what Kamal is saying there. That what the environmental activists, it's much ado about nothing, because again he's saying, okay, if the claim is that area is environmentally sensitive, that what they found there did not represent what was historically documented there. What's your how do you respond to that claim? I mean, and again, the caveat here, gentlemen, is that currently there is a litigation before the court on this matter. Right. So on the Bob report, we are going to tread carefully because these matters are sub judice in respect of the EIA and all of that. We're not going to touch that. But Brian, let's get your thoughts on that idea.
I don't like to talk about things on which I am not well versed. Right? Yeah. I am not an environmentalist. I'm not a scientist by any means. So I can't. Fine for Mr. Shahada to say, have I done tests? And he knows the answer to that. It was a little throwaway. We know this. All I am saying is when this happened, there was an outcry among environmentalists, people with doctors before their names, people who know about this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw that. Can I finish?
Come on, let him finish. Let him finish.
Right.
That's
so
okay.
My issue on that is that clearly something was done that was not in the best interest of the Grenadian environment. My other aspect of that project is it's the location, right? Hotel people will talk about location. Mr. Shihada, there are two projects, right? There is Six Senses and there is Hyatt. Can you tell me how many?
Intercontinental.
Yeah. Can you tell me how many rooms are in each? What's the total room size of the?
There are two different concepts. Six Senses, I said, it's the best brand in the world, and it's, it's something. Here. It's villas and each room have a swimming pool. And the Intercontinental is a 5-star hotel that built.
How many keys are we talking about altogether?
We are talking about 100 and 150, 250.
So 100, 150. Okay.
Correct. Grenada is in need to be in the tourist map. Is in need of 2,500 keys to be on the map.
Mm.
And we think we are contributing to this because, as I said, tourism is one of the major economical future for Grenada, and we can take Spain as an example. Tourism gives about 32% of the GDP of Spain.
Now, here's my issue with the model that you're using to finance these hotels, which is the CBI model from the sale of passports.
It's combined, Brian. So we don't go harder. It's combined. We say we secure the full finance in the project and we pay back by the CBI. Sometimes we pay back in 5 years, sometimes we pay back in 7 years, but the project, when it starts, it have a time to finish and it's finishing. As I said, I'm different to any other developer.
I know that, and I've seen there, and you have done incredibly fast work on this. I mean, would you be opening late this year, I would imagine?
Yeah, we'll be opening in 10th of November this year.
Right, okay.
The construction will be completed by September this year. And tell you what the measure we have. And
now here's what a bank.
Let's get to Brian's concern in respect of that financing model.
Here's what a bank who's looking at providing long-term financing for this would say. That La Sagesse is not your typical tourist area, by far. It is very windy. It's not a great beach, and it's on the East Coast. There are no large hotels on the East Coast of any Eastern Caribbean island, except for Magdalena in Tobago, which has been making losses for 30, 40 years, and the government is desperate to sell, and nobody wants it. I've stayed there. A bank would say, okay, you have a good product, you have a good operator, you have a good thing, but it's an untested location. Let's do one hotel and see if that works. And then let's do another one after that. Let's not do 2 hotels at the same time in the same place in an untested location, right? That's what a prudent financier would say. But the thing about the model of using finance through long-term finance provided from the sale of passports is that the people who buy a passport, they're not investing in a hotel, they're buying a passport. The room in the hotel that they get is a nice little extra, but that's not their main reason. So they're not really they're not doing detailed due diligence. They're not looking under every rock and looking at all of this stuff. And the model itself helps to create white elephants. Look at St. Kitts. Look at all of the empty condominiums and empty villas that are down in Frigate Bay in St. Kitts, right? A lot of them, most of them are built through CBIs, and most of them, when you drive there at night, when you drive there in the day, it looks fantastic. You think St. Kitts has got a whole lot of hotels. Tourism is booming. Drive there at night, they're all dark because there's nobody there. So the model itself can breed the creation of these white elephants. What financiers and banks and long-term financiers do, they say, whoa, tiger, when developers come to them with all of these fantastical projects. We want to do a helicopter there and a this there and all these wonderful plans. The bank says, whoa, tiger, whoa, just calm down. Take it in stages. Suck it and see. If the first hotel works in this new and untested location, sure, do another one. But to do 2 hotels next to each other simultaneously in a new untested area, to me, is too much, too fast.
Okay, can I
come out, please? Yes, please respond to that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you. We, as I said, we are not CBI only. We have banks. We have Citibank. We have Bank of America to finance us here in Grenada for the 6 census up to $90 million. And I don't think they don't do their due diligence. I don't think the biggest operator in the world that owns 6,300 hotels that will come and put his name in there just for the sake of that. They did. We have a lot of due diligence that have been made. Maybe there's one point, as I said, on me personal, that I choose in the land or the area because the government wanted in another area in St. George's, and I remember what the word said to me, that St. David's is undeveloped, and this is what my answer was. This is why they call me a developer. We look from all aspects. We look what we are giving to the society. I have seen St. David's people walking in the rain, going to St. George's every day, and I promised myself, and I promised, actually, I said it before, I will see some people from St. George's coming to work in St. David's. So we are sure. And you spoke about St. Kitts. Have you been to Park Hyatt? We are not the same. We have a full hotel, 5-star, even airlines increased their flights to St. Kitts because of that. American Airlines, for the first time, happened because of our hotel there, that they have a direct flight to Dominica once a week or twice a week. Now we are talking about 3 or 4 times a week. So no, Brian, as I said, this is the problem, that the CBI program, that I can say that it didn't succeed in what it's supposed to do, but I would like to talk about my project, and I'm not the one who invented it. I'm not the one who invented it.
What I hear you saying.
Please, one more second. No, it's not 100% accurate that people are buying passport. There is some people who are looking really for the investment, and they ask for their study, because he can buy here, for instance, a passport for 170,000, while the investment will cost him 370. So why he's choosing the investment? He can get the same thing if it's only for the sake of passport. He can get it through donation or Chapter 10 for 170. So no, we have serious people who are really buying and looking for investment. We know that it's not a quick investment in 5-star hotels, that after 3 years, 4 years, the stabilizing years, it will start paying him back dividends.
Brian, go ahead.
Points taken, Kamal. And the truth be told, in my view, my opposition, or I wouldn't say opposition, my views on your project at La Sagesse is that it's probably too fast. But the jury is still out. I am not totally against your project by any means, right? And I'd like to actually broaden this discussion, because if we're going to focus solely on your project, then we're missing the kind of point of the program that we're talking about, which is the broader issue of CBI financing, right? And there are two others, and you know where I'm going with this, Mount Hartman and Levera, where everything that I'm saying applies 100%, right? You get a pass on a lot of aspects of your project, because you've got brands, you've got good brands, you've got good products, you've got backing, you've got something there. What they have at Levera and what they have at Mount Hartman, nobody even knows. Nobody can tell you what's going to be the hotel operator, what's going to be the name of the hotel even. Is it going to be a hotel? What are they building at Mount Hartman? What are they doing? Have you seen? Your designs are attractive. Have you seen the spaceship that they want to put at Levera? So these are the CBI cases that I want to talk about.
And what you're saying, Brian, there is that changes the landscape and what is unique about Grenada, especially in the context of
the whole
Levera.
north end of Grenada. You'll see that from Carriacou.
Kamal.
Dr. Colin and Brian.
Yes.
Don't worry about the landscape of Grenada, because these projects are not going to be built. Same as others in St. Kitts and Haddad, they are not going to be built. That's a
very dangerous assumption, and I don't want to put the future of Grenada on that assumption.
As I told you, there is so many projects. Here in Grenada, you have 17 projects in CBI. 17, not 1 or 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is working? We started after Mount Hartman and Levera. And we are handing over, as I said, one of the best hotels in the world.
Like I told you, I am not against your product.
It's not my position to talk about the CBI program. This, you can go back to the government or to other. There is a system in the country that I'm working within this system. We developed our way of the system because we found it will not work only dependent on the CBI. So we managed to get other finances that to be paid back. Let's call the CBI as a soft finance, but it's not the full finance. It's not the full finance. As I said, today, and I'm not saying a secret, I am down by $40 million. I'm down because I hardly sold less than 50%. But we know that, and that was studied, and that was given to the financial institution, and they accepted this. And we have our reputation also in the market. We have our reputation. I have other businesses. I have so many things. So I can get the finance. I can get it. And this is what we are doing. And if any other project will depend on CBI money to build it, it will never be built. It will never be built.
I wish I could be.
Brian, get one word in, and then we will go to the next point. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I said I wish I could be confident of that assumption, but I'm not at all, because it's already started. The destruction has already started, just like you did at La Sagesse and any construction project. The first thing that happens is they clear the land, and that's already happened at Levera, and it's already happened at Mount Hartman. Mount Hartman, they're building. I've been up there like a spy.
They are building one. They are building one building.
Nobody
One,
knows.
Come on, let him finish.
It's only
Let
the
Brand finish.
university town, but what university? What town? What's a university town? Nobody knows. And
It's a very opaque representation of what is happening, especially in respect of that. Well, both of them really. And then, but we really have to move on, gentlemen. Now, Kamal, activist groups in Grenada, including the Grenada Land Actors and the grouping of civil society organizations, and of course, the National Democratic Congress at the time, when they were in opposition, they held protest action in that area. It seems as though they're all on board with the projects now, but that's the nature of politics. But these organizations express concern that the hotel being built on the grounds of a wetland site and a site for archaeological history, which you said a report is pending on this, has destroyed what is environmentally unique about the area, what is historically unique about the area. Now, your development company made a promise to restore the pond that was impacted in the process and to restore some of the biodiversity that was impacted in the process. At this moment, Kamal, what does these restoration plans look like? And how would these plans be environmentally sustainable? Now, it's not only about restoring what was there, I mean, what is possible to be restored, but ensuring that they're environmentally sustainable. Come on.
Colin, and
yes.
this is the unfortunate thing, because I passed to the environments or our studies, which made by Reed Smith. We paid hundreds of thousands for the restoration or the studies that have been done in the area. From the historical, and this is, I think, was recorded in the town hall meeting.
Yes.
This pond, or it's not even, if you look to the land department papers, it's called a lake. It's not called a pond. Mm-hmm. You can go even to, as I said, everything is documented. It's a lake. And we went back to people who are 90 years old, 100 years old, what this was. And it was open to the sea. The lake was open to the sea, and there was marine life inside there. And then what happened, the previous owner, not Dr. Mitchell, he tried to reclaim the land. So he dumped it with, sludge or whatever you want. We cleared 100,000 cubic yards of there. And it was a place for garbage. We removed 100 tons of garbage in there. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you what, Hadan, give me a little time on that. Let me tell you what this lake is, or this pond is. It was a pond or a lake closed from the all sides and full of sludge. The level of the sludge is higher than the sea level. And every year there is more rain coming and more sand washed, and it was coming to this pond, and it was pushing the sides. What left to the sea is 10 feet. And if this happens in 4 or 5 years and open to the sea, all the Sagesse is gone, because these 100,000 cubic yards, and by the way, they are there, anybody can come and see them, would have gone to the sea. So this is what the thing, and as I said, we got the history. So we are opening this one to the sea as it was as God created it 100 years before. We are deepening it so the water will not go from the pond to the sea. It will be vice versa. It's going in a straight. Not one is empty and one had. And by the way, if you come to the summer before, you will find it just is a swamp with mosquitoes, and that what is no water even. So we have done the studies and we have taken. I'm planting now, and this is what really upsets. Okay, when the mangroves have been removed, and it have been removed for a reason. I don't go and just remove mangroves, because that was the only way by the engineers, not me, that to be able to clear and restore the pond. Now we are planting we are planting mangroves. There are 6,000 trees will be planted in the project. Now we are planting the mangroves. We started restoring the pond as it was, as I said, it was before. Nobody came, no TV, nobody. When we removed, everybody was there and with all my due respect, when you said about demonstration, that was not a demonstration. And I told them when they came there, that was trespassing. This is private land. That was trespassing. And believe me, I stood there. Actually, I have been offered that they send police, and I said no. And I sent my workers back, and I stood alone for that. But nobody wanted to listen to science or whatever it is. Everybody have opinion and coming with an opinion. And I'm here talking. I hope your environments are listening to the show. Let them provide you with documents or to anybody. I asked for documents. I had meetings with them. I'm the one who called them. Let's sit together and make this project as an example for the balance that I'm talking at. But no, they are interested in going to the media, going to other, and everybody with an opinion. Because when I asked, when you say this is the salt pond, you have to prove it. You have to show me. Have you done these soil reports? Have you done this water resort? Have you found any salt there? But as I said, they are going for opinions. And I cannot work with opinions. Science and opinions doesn't work together. And till now, as I said, you talk about the restoration. Yes, we are restoring it. We are restoring it with the mangroves around it. We are opening it to the sea. We have made a groin with the stones that had to come to the sea, and all this by studies. It's not by opinions also. We are making sanctuary for the birds. We are digging ponds with sweet water, because this will be salt water. So some birds would want sweet water. We made around it ponds of sweet water. We are doing all the maximum. I said we are developers. We are not destructors. We are not destructors. We are developers.
Well, some may say that developers are destructors, and the counter argument here, Kamal, would be, you're saying that let me get a word in here.
So you're saying that. Go ahead.
No. The point, the question is, Kamal, are you convinced that what is being built at La Sagesse would be in harmony with the environment, that you think you can just restore an ecosystem in harmony with a hotel project? Is that what you're trying to do?
So you're the savior of La Sagesse then. So you're saving La Sagesse. So how did La Sagesse survive for thousands of years without you?
Go to engineering and science, and then you can make joke of me or not.
Come on. You are not exactly an unbiased scientific observer of this, are you? You're not unbiased.
You are repeating what they are saying.
You are not unbiased. You're the promoter of the project. So when you say that, they don't want to listen to science, you mean they don't want to listen to your version of science? They have their own science. You have your science.
Brian, not my version.
Come on, let him get a word in. Come on.
We appointed the best engineers. I think you know maybe Reed Smith, and we appointed the best engineers. I cannot tell you that I'm the one who decided to remove this or do that, though I'm an engineer. But
you know what?
We appointed the best experts in there.
Yeah. And who pays the engineer? You. So the engineer is working for you, right?
So if you want to go in this formula, you are paying the tax.
Come on, let him get a word in. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
When you say that nobody wants to listen to science, you mean nobody wants to listen to you. That you cannot say that you are an unbiased scientific observer of this. You are the project promoter, and you yourself, as you said, is not an environmentalist, nor am I. So there are two versions to the reality of what is. And for you to say that you're the savior of La Sagesse, I think is a little bit strong. And if that isn't chutzpah, I don't know what is, right? You're not the savior of La Sagesse. La Sagesse has been there for millions of years. And yes, of course, there's issues with pollution and so forth. But for you to come and say that you have saved La Sagesse, and saving it for whom? Are you saving it for Grenadians or for your hotel guests? Right?
I'm Grenadian, by the way, huh?
Yeah, right. So yeah, we get that. You got your passport.
Okay.
You bought your passport.
Yeah,
I don't think that people who buy a passport and people who are born here are not exactly the same.
Brian, you are expert on the World Bank and everything. When there's dispute, what happens?
Pardon?
He's asking when there is a dispute in respect of the World Bank. Go ahead.
No. In respect to when there is dispute, what they do, they bring a third party, a professionals, a third party. I'm willing to pay for them. I'm willing
Okay,
to
so
pay for
so let's put some meat on this then. So you're saying that you would hire a third party?
I will not hire. I will pay, because you said
You
if
just
I
said
hire,
you would hire them. You pay
But
for it.
so you pay for it. It's the same thing, isn't it?
No,
Hiring,
no,
paying
no,
the
no,
same-
no, no.
Okay.
Colin, his
Yeah, go
previous
ahead.
word, that
Yeah.
I'm paying for the engineer, they will say whatever I want.
Right.
Which is not, professionalism is not that way.
Right. So what you should do is give the money to the government.
I gave the money to the government.
No,
You know
here's you said you want to hire a professional engineer to mediate, to arbitrate, right?
Who you
So
want to
obviously they
arbitrate?
must report to you. They're reporting to the government, but you will fund the government.
Brian, as I said, you don't have the full story. All the studies we made, we submitted to the government. All the EIA, even, they were attacking me in the HADA. The EIA is not secret or whatever it is. I work as per the law of the country. I submitted to planning department. How can I asked them question, how can I make it public?
I'm glad that you brought this up.
Because I send it to everybody. I send it to every single one who asked for it.
Right, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
Brian,
Because
yes, I'm glad that you brought that up.
From the government.
Correct. But and again, can you blame Kamal, Brian, for a lack of due diligence on the part of the government? Kamal, at the end of the day, is an investor. That's his interest. That's his moneyed interest. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the government,
if we open
has
the
a
door,
responsibility.
then people are going to walk through. Exactly. How the environmental impact assessments on some of these projects could have been passed by the EP, the planning agency, and so on, is beyond me. Right? In many years I've seen
beyond me.
and
beyond me.
And Brian and Kamal, this is where the both of you agree. We have some agreement here in respect of that process.
Right.
Go
So
ahead,
let us take this beyond La Sagesse. Right. I don't think this program is here entirely to talk about your project, Kamal, as good as it may be in certain aspects.
Brian, please understand my position. Please understand my position. I cannot talk about other projects. As I said,
I can.
You can. You feel free. I wish maybe you are talking what I want to talk and I cannot.
Say it. Say it. Don't be afraid. You're a Grenadian, man. Nobody can stop you. You're a Grenadian, just like me.
Not only that. I'm not only Grenadian. I have business with different parties to do, and I want to finish and I want to finish this project. Can you give me?
You don't want to step on toes.
No. Can you give me 5? Yes,
come
I have
on,
been.
Come on, please. Yes, you're welcome to rebut. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I have been 3 times threatened to stop my project because I said some words. And I tell you what this project means to Grenada. This project is bringing the 5-star brands to Grenada, impacting the tourist industry. This project, and I refused to sign the construction with the Chinese company who built the houses there. And they were the lowest price by far because they refused to sign that they will employ Grenadians. And I employed Grenadians. Till today, on my side, there is, in different stages, there is 1,200 Grenadian work there. And now in opening, there will be, we will start training now. There will be about 300 Grenadian working there. And I think they deserve this work and they deserve to get jobs because it's a scarcity of words. As Colin or you said, that there is a lot of Grenadians in Costa Rica. They are everywhere because there is no opportunities here. There is no opportunities. And unfortunately, what I can see with the youngsters here, their dream is to leave the country. So I don't say, don't call me a saver or not saver, but yes, I am working for the place that I am. And for your information, I don't like to say it, what you call it, publicly. I'm a retired person. That means I don't work for money. All my money goes for charity work and social work all over. And you can check about me, what I'm doing here in Grenada and everywhere. If somebody coming with this aim, he will not go and cheat and distract, and he will not. He will not. So please please have a look at the
point.
We till now contributed to the government. I'm talking to the government. That means to the treasury of the government. From the sales of citizenships, we contributed 150 million EC dollar in government fees. We spent on the country till today, in 2 years, 400 million EC dollar. So we have good impact in the society, and this has to be looked at. Yes.
Can you tell me how many passports have been sold in your project?
In our project till now 620.
Number.
620.
620. Right. Now, again, I don't want this whole show to be about range and Sagesse. So let's extrapolate this.
And expand the lens a bit, yes.
The whole discussion. Maybe you don't want to, get in trouble or whatever.
No, I can't. I'm a
Okay. Have we thought about the demographic impact of the untrammeled, uncontrolled sale of passports? Last number I heard was approaching 8,000 have been sold. I think that was just before the election. That's the number I got. So say it's 8,000, 9,000 by now. You've sold 600, including in that. Mount Hartman is selling passports. Levera is selling passports. We're selling passports to Russians where nobody else is. So what is it? What we're selling to countries that aren't exactly the world's most desirable places to live. Russia, China, Syria. Sorry to mention your ex-home country, but a lot of these areas are stressed. So what's going to happen if there's a big breakdown, a big explosion in one of these countries where the people who have bought our passports can no longer live there? They're going to come here. Have we thought about the impact of selling? We are a country of 110,000 people. By my calculations, they have to sell something like 7 to 8 to 10,000 passports just for Levera alone to finish it. And don't say that it won't happen, because it's happening. So what about the demographic impact of all of this? What if somebody at the future says, "Oh, let's allow diaspora voting. Let's allow all those Grenadians in New York to vote"?
Because I'll tell you.
Come on, let him finish, and then
that
you
means
get
we're
to
opening
respond.
the door. So we're creating a social, economic, and political imbalance in this country by the sale of passports, many of whom might decide to come here and inflate the value of land, inflate the value of everything else. Do we have the infrastructure to support all of this? And not only the infrastructure to support anybody who might come and live here, do we have the infrastructure to build a $2 billion project at Mount Hart, at Levera, at the same time as another? They're all billions here and billions. We don't have the infrastructure. So we're selling a product that we have not anticipated what it could be the medium and long-term impacts on Grenada. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the water, the wastewater, the garbage, the roads, the ports to do these kind of projects. But it's the untrammeled, unbridled optimism of these projects that's going to get us in trouble. And I'm not talking about your project in particular, Kamal. I'm talking about all these other ones, these weird and wonderful things that we get foisted upon us, and we don't even know what they are. Up to now, nobody can tell me what's going to happen at Mount Hartman. Is it going to be a hotel? Is it going to be a university? Nobody knows, but they're building, and they've already destroyed mangroves, and they've already destroyed things. And I might do a little snooping mission down there tomorrow and see. So just to sit back and say, Kamal, that these will never happen, it's a dangerous, very dangerous. And as a concerned Grenadian, as you say you are, you should be concerned about this, because we market ourselves as pure Grenada. And for the life of me, how anybody, let alone the Prime Minister, can stand in front of that thing at Levera with the photographs behind him of what they plan to build, these spaceships, 16-story spaceships, and say that this is pure Grenada is beyond me. That's not what people come to Grenada for. People come to Grenada because we're not Dubai, we're not Singapore, we're not the Bahamas. They come here because, and our motto says it all: pure Grenada. And what they're building at at Levera is a monstrosity. And I keep using that word. And we don't have any say in this. We could just let them come in and decide what they're going to build and say, yes, thank you very much. We're so happy. We're so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're destroying the goose that lays the golden egg with this short-sightedness. And it is totally short-sighted because nobody looks at the long-term impact of what we're doing. We're like a little boy playing with a gun. Oh, it's free money. Everybody's getting all this money. What is the impact of this? There's no due diligence. So what are we building?
Come on, I will give you the chance to respond. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on.
Actually, I don't want to respond. And as you said, I have 3 times warning that to stop my project, but I'll continue. No, because this is for the benefit of Grenada, and I'm living in a place and drink from the water of this place. I have to be loyal, and nobody knows what the value of the land for a Palestinian, because we don't have it. We don't have.
I am aware. I appreciate that.
No,
I appreciate
that's
that. But
the background from why I'm coming. I'm against the CBI. The CBI, not only what you mentioned, Brian, which I agree on most of it.
Did you say you're against CBI?
No, I am. I am against CBI in how they put CBI program supposed to be for developing the country. Unfortunately, all the government of the Caribbean and others have taken the money of the CBI to balance their weak balance sheet. This should have been gone to projects, not to balance a balance sheet. Now it's come to stop, by the way, by 2025, European Union is taking it out. Otherwise, they will lose their free entrance. I want to see how the governments will balance their balance sheet if they are depending on CBI for 25%. And I think more than the 8,000 that you said, Brian, I remember my discussion with the previous government and with the current government. And I just pointed, just to summary what you said about the demography, exactly that what I said. These people, if they come, then we will have either Mikhailkov as the prime minister or Shinhawahu as the prime minister, if they are allowed to vote. And this is the country. This is what it is. So if you don't want to stop it, at least get use of the program. The program have other phases. One second, Brian. Make a condition that to be able to go into the political life or whatever it is, that you must reside for 7 years or 5 years or whatever. I put all these in front. As I said, I care. Second thing, these people who are buying the citizenship or passport, what you have done to them to come and invest or even visit the country? Nothing. So I totally agree with you. It's misplanned.
We agree on that, but let me just respectfully.
Also let me talk about Levera.
Let him finish.
All right, go ahead.
Third thing for project, and this we submitted, by the way, all these things. You put your operator. Third thing, you have to reach an agreement because each operator is building to a different standard. So you cannot build without having the operator. If you are building a 5-star hotel, if you are building a simple hotel, this is something else. So what I'm building now is totally different what I built in other. Each operator have his what I call it standard, have so many other things. His insurance companies, I'll tell you about what we are building in Grenada, in Sagesse. All our buildings are hurricane-proof and earthquake-proof because this is the Intercontinental Insurance Company requirement. And it's all, it can be, and I offer to the government that this had to be listed as a shelter if there is anything. I offered that this had to be listed as a shelter. So yes, I agree with you, Brian, that there is a lot. Do you know how much a passport sale or whatever reach in St. Kitts and $25,000? 25,000. It is crazy. It happened an incident, and you can find it on the internet. I had disagreement because 6 centers supposed to be built in St. Kitts, okay, and I had disagreement with the prime minister there, and you can see it in the internet when he came and he said that Galaxy, the Chinese company who left everything, as you said, in Frigate Bay, and that they will open this date, and everybody was taking photos and other. I booked the room in that day for $5 million one night. I put in the press one night, and he got upset and he called me. I told him, why you are upset? I put condition. If the hotel is ready, okay, I'll pay the 5 million. And if it's not ready, they pay the 5 million. And both of them goes to charity, not to me. Both of them goes to charity. You will find it in the internet. It's written there. So I am with you, Brian. And this is what really upsets me. I have a lot of energy and power to work on that. This is what upsets me here. That I'm treated like others. Please treat each one differently of what he's doing, not what the full picture. I didn't invent the CBI. I came and worked through the CBI.
You take advantage of it.
Advantage or not.
That's what you do.
Brian, I lost in the last year, 1.5 years, $7 million in Park Hayat and and Dominica. Do you know why? Because I refused to close the hotel and I refused to kick anybody out of his job. There was 180 people and one guest. So please take this records. Who's serious? Who's not serious? Who's that? Don't because you need it. You need projects. You need developments. You have no other options. Use the program wisely and nicely, and to get to get benefit for the country. To get benefit for the country, as you said, I agree with you 100%. It's not just putting something on drawing. I challenge everybody now. Whoever, I don't want to mention her. Can you give me a program of work? And you know that. What your program of work to work in Grenada? If you don't know, and I'm talking about the other two projects, if you don't know what you are going to build, for instance, Mount Hartman, as I said, if these two projects are done, there will be a game changer. On Mount Hartman, they want to build a hotel. And then they changed to build a university. First, there is 4 phases. And then from the university, what they are building now is student accommodation. What the bloody hell you are building student accommodation before you build a university? And second thing, by the way, I advised the government. I told them one thing. If they are building a university, talk to SGU. Dominica lost their Ross University because they were talking to another university. Talk to them. They are established. They have 10,000 students. They are part of the economy. Don't let somebody just coming and saying, I'm building a university and I'm compete with the... So there is a lot to be done, Brian. And believe me, this is what I tried to do from the beginning, to put hand with everyone. I had meeting with the environments and I had a meeting with them in the planning department. Let's say, somebody came and said, we have 2 experts in building mangroves. I told them, excellent. Let's come. And by the way, I have all these emails and reported. Let's meet on the site and see how can... They want to bring me 35 people and media another. I don't want them. You had enough. You destroy me enough. And they went outside, to Birds International or into there is an issue. It's not 2 hands needs to clap. Also, these environments have to be not limited, have to be directed even by the government or anybody what they can do. Grenada, Brian, and I'm sure you know it. Last year was 147 on the friendly investment place. I'm not talking CBI, I'm talking investment. This year, they are 162 because every single project they're coming here, they are against it. I don't say that they have to agree it. I don't say that they have to agree in it, but discuss it and get it in the best way. Look to all angles of it. Do you think all these benefits that brings to the company, this one angle, doesn't, and I say I didn't destroy anything, doesn't have sacrifices? Definitely it have price against it. Definitely it will have.
The price of progress is high.
100%. As I told you, Colin, if you don't want here, for instance, I wish that the environments will go and stop the tree burning even when you are building a house. I brought a machine and I denoted this one to mulch all these and use it in agriculture.
Right now, can I get a word in edgeways?
Why they are not talking about it? Why they are not talking? Your turtles, 80% are gone by fishermen. We didn't see a demonstration. We didn't see a demonstration against that. So
yes, you have. Yes, they have been. Anyway, the point is,
yes, you have.
Come on, you and I agree.
We have to get to the next point. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, you and I agree that the CBI program is flawed, but we have completely different views. You say that they should stop giving money to the governments and only give money to hotel projects or projects. And I'm saying the opposite. Forget this hotel project thing. Forget
no.
Let me finish.
No, please explain.
Your project gets a pass because it is not as egregious as the others and so on. But where you mentioned, look at Mount Hartman, look at Levera, and look at Kawana Bay. 3 projects which are a disaster, right? One of them because it's in court, and the other 2 are just a disaster by their own design. What I'm saying is if we're going to sell passports and we're going to continue the CBI program, have people give passports to people who can actually help Grenada, right? All the ex-SGU doctors and vets that are out there. If you want to sell passports, get them to come here and contribute their skills. They have a vested interest in Grenada. Stop this thing about Any project that comes along that's going to build the $2 billion and a $3 billion project gets CBI status. We have the Fort George that needs urgent care. We have the hospital that needs building. Why can't the money go to these social projects instead of hotel, which are failure, except for yours? Yours is going to open, I get it. But none of the others, the big ones that we're talking about, are anywhere near. And we don't even know what they are. So let's just, if we're going to sell passports, let the people benefit, not private developers. Let the money go into government and let that money be a special fund to be used for social services, health, education, and the environmental protection and heritage sites. That's what we should be doing with the money, not spending it on yet another white elephant, as you say, that will never be finished. But it's still, that's where the money is going. So all we're doing is we're taking money from the sale. Let's be clear. It's our patrimony. Grenadians in the past died for this. And we are selling passports and we're putting it in the hands of private developers. That's sick. We should be putting it into the contributing to the buildup of Grenadian society, not for individual projects. So if they're going to sell passports, A, stop the real estate option, let all the money go into the government. B, target people that we want that can bring skills to Grenada. And C, increase the price and diminish the numbers. It's ridiculous that we are selling passports for 150,000, let alone St. Kitts and the 25 that you mentioned. We should be selling passports for 500,000. You want to come here? We want selectivity. We're not open. I think that the failure rate or the rejection rate of CBI applicants overall is 1.5%. So how bad do you have to be for us to reject you, right? We should be selective in who we get, and we should increase the value of that passport and get people who can contribute to the economy and society of Grenada, not just build another white elephant, half-finished, empty hotel.
Very well. Now, Brian,
come on. I will interrupt you here, Colin, and this is my my habit actually.
Final interruption, please, because we have to
agree
move on.
with you, not 1,000%, 1,000,000%.
Well, look at that. Let's clap together.
No, we are. As I said, you are presenting in a way, I'm presenting in a way, and I agree with you. And I said this put me in trouble when I was talking about these things.
Well, you're just going to get in trouble again.
I think so.
You're going to get in trouble for coming on the Bob Report.
I'm a bit needed now. You know, the hotel is going to open, so they will not. No, believe me.
That's what we thought about Kawana Bay, by the way.
I'm screaming about these things. I'm screaming about these things because I care. As I said, I'm a retired person. I don't have a country to serve, but I'm serving here as my own country. And same as I did in St. Kitts and Dominica. Otherwise, why should I go? Do you want to have another joke? You are talking about investing, okay? I proposed 3 proposals here or in Dominica or St. Kitts. One is in St. David's to have a public garden. People have nowhere to go. That's one project. Second project, to have pilot farm, hydroponic and other, because you know the old fashion of farming is gone. And this is all social working and all coming from my own money, not from range. Okay, these 2 proposals. I proposed because I saw who's coming to to my side, these youngsters. I proposed because the development bank, you go and you want a loan for entrepreneur for 40,000, they will ask you for 60,000 guarantees, which you don't have them. So I proposed to both banks here to put $1 million as a fixed deposit to guarantee loans of these youngsters, entrepreneurs to start business. But I put one condition on the government, that I want my money back. So don't break these projects by tax, VAT, and MAT and HAT. I'm taking concession as a foreigner. I'm Grenadian, but I'm a foreign investor. Why don't
foreign Grenadian?
Yeah, foreign Grenadian. Why you don't give it to your own people? These concessions? Let his project succeed. 5 years concessions on taxes and other. He will succeed, and you will find, instead of they are staying in the bars, you will find them working. So I am with that. And by the way, don't misunderstand me. I'm still willing to sit with everybody, but please to talk science, talk engineering, and I'm trying to rectify anything if I did wrong, which is, I don't want to say I doubt or whatever it is, because as I said, I'm not the decision maker in these things. We appoint international companies, well reputed for all these aspects.
Well,
now, Brian, yes, Brian, quickly get a word in, and then we'll get to the next point.
I just said I appreciate your offer to fund this engineer to do an arbitration study, and maybe Dr. Bob, you could kind of nail this down after the show.
Yes, absolutely. Kamal,
make the funding available to a neutral body to hire the consultant, so that the consultant doesn't report to you, reports to a neutral body. Could be government, could be somebody else, and do an independent assessment of all of the environmental impacts of the project.
To be frank with you, as I cannot do it before the court. I can deposit the money to anybody.
Sounds like it's going to cost about $500,000 US.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Brian is a consultant, but Brian, you tell the importance of private-public partnerships in driving development. Would you agree that the intention of CBI investments are an example of a private-public partnership, though not sustainable in the way that it is designed?
No.
But for Caribbean countries, for Caribbean economies who are challenged with not receiving funding from traditional partners for development, who are challenged with a post-colonial structure in which they're expected to pick up the pieces, if you will, from that colonial experiment and develop their countries. What particular private-public partnerships do you think would be sustainable outside of the current CBI projects that we are seeing in the region?
As a PPP proponent, it gives me the heebie-jeebies to hear you describe CBI as a PPP program. It's not, never, nunca, nada, no way, negative. It's not, right?
And I stand corrected on that.
Yes, vehemently so. A PPP is, for example, where there is a private operator. Somebody, for example, a port company might buy or do a long-term lease of our port and invest money into the port. You don't just sell it to them or have them in, but the thing about it is get the private sector to invest money in a infrastructure asset. So that is basically the definition of PPPs. And although Grenada is small, there is still opportunities to involve the private sector in a lot of things that the government typically has done itself. We see this in, for example, garbage collection and so on and so forth. So yeah, there is scope, but it has to be structured right. PPP is not just passing profit over to the private sector. The PPP is where the private operator takes a risk, like the private operators at Annandale Falls. They spent a lot of money and created a wonderful project. And I want to, hail that project to the skies, that they took a risk. And it took them, I spoke to them, they've taken years to negotiate with the government, and they built it. It's green heart. It's really a nice product compared to what it used to be. Remember what Annandale used to be? Just a waterfall. Now it's not much more. But they don't own it. They have a long-term lease, and that's a real partnership.
So more partnerships like that, you believe, would be sustainable and long-term and manageable, and it harmonizes with the current facade of the country.
Yes. Now that's a good idea of a public-private partnership. A good example.
Very well.
And go ahead. It could be on a larger scale, but there are Fort George. We're sitting on a diamond mine, right? You've been to England, you go to the forts, you go to Windsor Castle, you go to Warwick Castle. They're dressed in the old clothes and so on. They make a ton of money.
They are excellent in preserving history.
Excellent. And the kind of tourists that we get, our age profile, our demographics, our income profile, these are people who want to see stuff like this. You go up to the fort now, it's just horrible. But you could create a good
an experience.
Cafe restaurant, gift shop, interpretive center, museum. That could be why can't we sell passports to do that? Why the myopia of big, gleaming hotels, right?
Concrete facades, they may say.
I like the design of Kamal. I question the location with that wind. You're going to be at the pool and your book ends up in the water and your drink knocks over because it's so windy. I question that, but like I said, time will tell. I am not opposed fundamentally to what they're doing at Kamal because of the way they're doing it. There's something I can get my teeth into, right? I know the hotel operator. I know what their plans are. And I get it. I wish them luck. I think it's going to be a struggle, but I wish them luck. The others are completely the opposite end of the scale.
Okay, very well. Now, Kamal, and we will close this segment, but Kamal, you've also indicated in the past that you've held consultations. You've touted the way that you have open communication with everyone, and you've had communication with public interest groups. I do remember that there was a consultation that you held in La Sagesse at the initial stages of the project. Now, how much of these consultations, Kamal, are an exercise in just window dressing and box checking? And realistically, can you articulate how you employ recommendations from these consultations into the project? What specific feedback have you taken from the community that you have incorporated into the project such that we can look at the project to say, well, actually, that particular aspect of the project is as a result of community input?
Okay, let me talk about this consultation that have been done. We made so many consultations, but the first one, as I said, I came with open heart, open mind, how that to work with. And I gave to the environments and the group who were there, and I can name them, okay, to organize this consultation. The unfortunate thing of the result, and by the way, it's all recorded and you can find it in the email, they didn't allow me to talk about the project, not even for a minute. They didn't allow me. I did everything. We took the place and I said it had to be in St. David's and we did it in the sugar mill. They didn't allow me for a minute. It was just attack. After that, we started doing our own consultation. We go to the farmers, we go to the people, and as I told you, I have 1,100 people who worked on the site. We talk to them. They are our brothers and sisters, and that's always what I say. This is not only the best hotel in the world to be proud of. It has been built by Grenadians. We are the only project that have been built by Grenadians. If a lot of people, I don't like to do PR. I'm not a PR person. I have more than 70 persons that have been trained, and now they moved from being an ordinary worker to a tiler or painter or machine operator, and his income increased from $60 a day to $130 a day. So we have a lot, and this is what I wanted. This is what I said from the beginning. Let's make this, because I know what I'm going to do. Let's make this project as an example for others to be done, to be followed on. Brian was talking about the investment here, the public sector. You have no chance of investment in Grenada, because to start investment in Grenada, you have to lay ground for good investment. All the laws that here, not all, a lot of laws here, a lot of complications, a lot of bureaucracy that doesn't work for investment. I'll tell you a small example. Okay, in Dubai. Dubai is something else in the world. If I receive a parcel by FedEx, usually it comes to me 24 hours. It arrived to Grenada in 24 hours. It takes me 7 days to clear it. So nobody would look at that. You go to the bank to deposit check, you have to queue for 3 hours. You go to get a paper. I'll tell you something. I have some of my workers that applied for a work permit. We applied all the papers. It had been there for 3 months. Nothing happened. So I do agree that private sector have to do investment, and this is the by leasing or whatever it is. So it have to open to public sector, but you have to lay the ground. You cannot just go and throw seeds in a rock place. You have to remove the rocks first. You have to remove them and start working. And this is the thing for Grenada. Time is running quick. Time is running quick. There is something have to be done. And to be frank with you, the old system or laws or whatever it is. It's like what you call it, a rotten dress. You don't stop patching it, remove it, and get a new one. Get a new one. New things have to be done here. New things have to be done. And as I said, we often, you know what? I'll give you a small example that what happened. I came to what you call it to here want to do a solar farm, because our hotels will need about 2.5, 3 mega of solar farm, of electricity. And by the way, Grenada is the highest price of electricity worldwide. So if you have,
it's not, but anyway, it's high.
Yeah, it's one of the highest.
Yes.
So I came to put a solar farm. I said I want to consume 3 megawatts of power. I will build a solar farm with 6 megawatts. Okay, that means I will give to Greenlake 3 megawatts for free. And this is my 3 calculated on the highest occupancy and everything. So actually,
they probably don't have the capacity to take it.
No, they have. Believe me. No, the discussion was not had capacity because I want to put it on the grid. It was not.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it was not.
Putting 3 megawatts onto a grid that's existing.
They studied the thing because I'm going to take now 3 megawatts. They can reduce it from their diesel generator. And that's what the discussion. But it was not. We will buy it from you at 16 cents, all of it, and we'll sell it to you at 34. So how you can expect with this mentality an investor will come and work? Another thing, why the local, you have people who have capitals or capabilities to invest in Grenada. They are not investing in Grenada. Show me a factory that have been made. Few, when I saw all of them either trading quick money, buy and sell and buy real estate. So you have to lay the ground, Brian. You have to
once again we are singing from the same hymn sheet, right? Excellent. We do not. That's why we as you mentioned, we rank so low on the doing business report, but they stopped doing that now because of some issues. But we are way down there in the ease of doing business. And for us and for these projects to tell us and we to like gobble up and believe that, I'm going to do a $2 billion project at Mount Hartman and a $2 billion, it's a nonsense.
It is.
We don't have the physical, institutional, legal, and human capacity to implement these projects in the time. Each project is bigger than our gross national product. So what are we talking about?
Well,
and who are we fooling ourselves?
Brian,
all we're doing is selling passports, putting the money into the pockets, some in the government and some to private developers like yourself. You've done something with yours. Kamal, like I said, this is not you I'm talking about. These are the others. We don't even know what they're doing, where they're doing it, and it's completely a monstrosity. Yours, I hope, works. I've got my doubts, but yours, I hope, works. Mount Hartman is not going to work. There's no university and there's no town. All they're doing is destroying what there is there to sell more passports. Levera will not work. 500-room hotel in a spaceship design up there. It's a god-awful mess, right? So, this is my issue with the whole passport selling.
Brian,
We're selling our patrimony to build empty monstrosities.
Yeah.
One
quick point, and then we'll take a break and come back for the wrap up. Yes, go ahead.
Brian, what you said about put money to do for Jude or a hospital or whatever it is. I agree with you 100%. But the government is making this money because they are selling Chapter 10, Section 10 quite a lot. It's more than the investment, the real estate.
What is Section 10?
It's called a donation that you pay.
Where you just put the money in the government. Yes.
So there is a lot of money gone there. Whether the government want to spend it in this place, I told you, it's misused. It's used to balance their balance sheet. Failure balance sheet. Balance sheet.
And you know what they say about free money? You easy come, easy go. And if we're depending on the sale of passports for this money, then that's not a way to run a government budget because you don't know how many passports you're going to sell. And then the pressure is on to sell as many passports because it's in your budget. And if you don't make budget, then, it's a problem. So anybody and everybody, it now becomes a race to the bottom to sell passports. And I use the word advisedly.
Agree 100%. And by the way, as I told you, this is ending by 2025. And I want to see these governments, how they are going to finance their balance sheet if they are depending 25% on selling citizenships or passports. I want to see how they are going to.
Come on, sail, sail, sail. Get it while it's hot. That's what we're doing with our patrimony.
That's it.
Like a
Yeah.
fish.
All right, gentlemen. On that note, let us take a quick break, and I'll come back to get closing comments from both of you. Yes. Yes. When we come back for the final wrap up, you can. Yes. Just stand by, folks. Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching. Okay, welcome back to the program, folks. At this point, what we're going to do is that we're going to invite our guest to offer some closing comments. Of course, Brian, you are a returning guest, so I do want to give our first-time guest, Kamal Shahada. You are certainly, Kamal, this was a long time in coming. When you reached out to us, you said, oh, the Bub Report is a very serious program, but, we need to have a debate. I like having a debate. And I really appreciate you, Kamal, for saying that you were okay with sitting to have a debate on this issue, that you've not siloed yourself away from local media. You're not avoiding the press, as some politicians tend to do. You said you want to have that debate head on. So I will give you credit as an investor, as a developer, for deciding to come to the Bub Report to have the debate. And I am certainly hopeful that we can have you back again to discuss other matters in relation to development. So Kamal,
don't call him a politician. Why you insult him so?
No, not him. I said politicians choose not to come,
Brian,
but he does.
Brian, actually, I was a politician. I was deputy.
That explains a lot.
No, really. I was sitting one day when in the opening of the hotel in Dominica, and it was Prime Minister Skerrit, Prime Minister Tim Harris, Prime Minister Allen, and other, and we're talking, and then, general subjects. And then I told him I was a politician. He said, why you don't continue? I told him, because I couldn't lie. Finish. That's it. That's what happened. So what I want to say,
the conversation stop right then.
That's it. So what we are saying, here is, let me talk about not the project itself. I think we went into so many angles of it.
Yeah.
In the responsibility, and both the government, the authorities, and the developers here in developing and working in the countries for the best of the countries. I want to make some examples, small examples. Currently, we are working, I don't know whether you know, there is a non-profit organization called the New Law. I don't know whether you are aware of it or not.
Yes, that's a new life organization. Yes, they're an institution for technical and
we are now partnering with them, or I am partnering with them, in make their life better and their quality higher. And we started already the work. We are planning for fundraising, whether from my family foundation or Range or others, to improve their educational part of it, bring more equipment, more machinery. I saw the suffering of the students that they go from there to St. David's. So we are trying to get transport and accommodation. And this is supposed to be, part, if they don't want to do it willingly, the government have to force them to do that to the developers. They have to contribute to the country. it took me discussion with Six Senses because I'm not the operator. It took me about 1 year discussion to make them agree in 1% of the revenue to the hotel to go for social development. They wanted to have 3 internship a year. I managed to get 25 internship, but it shouldn't be me. It should be the government. Can you imagine during the negotiation of SGU that how many scholarships, forget about scholarship to go here for 1 year and then he cannot continue in the States. If this was enforced, you would have Grenada full of doctors. Now you don't have anybody. You don't have anybody. And I agree, this should go for development. It's called development. But trials, as I said, I can try at the maximum. As I told you, I tried to make a hydroponic farm here. Not for me, for ADTC. I don't know that you heard of Adult and Teen Challenges organization that they take care of prisoners and which is I raised for them $1 million already. So they are starting a farm and they are producing honey, and there's about 700 people who are mainly ex-prisoners, because if you go for a cigarette of marijuana to prison, after that nobody want to employ you. So there is a lot of possibility, but the government also have to put plan. I have discussion with GIDC. Okay, I'm coming as an investor here, not me, and I'm talking about anybody. Show me what I can do. Show me what I can do. But if you go see it, it's shame sometimes. You go to IGA and you buy nutmeg. You are the second country here producing nutmeg, and you find it made in Thailand and made in Turkey. So there is a lot to be done, and especially we are small. The island is small. The population is small, and what I call it, I don't want to say. Let me say it, and that's it. A country that 6% of the population are working in the government, that means they are non-productive, will never go ahead. Will never go ahead. You will keep just paying from where the finance coming, taxes and taxes and taxes, and this makes any investment here is a loser. Is a loser, and money looking for money. If I don't make profit, why should I invest in Grenada? So there is a lot to be done, and definitely a partnership between the government and the private sector in the right basis for both parties, on the right basis. The same as I come as investor. I want protection for my money. I want protection for my investment. This have to be worked, and maybe it will take 5-10 years. Let me tell you a small example of what happened in the Korean War. After the Korean War, the Prime Minister got 80% of his budget and put it for education. And out of the 80% for preschools and primary school. He said, come and see what we will be after 25 years. So we have examples in the world. Let's work on them. Let's work on them.
Absolutely. On that note, Kamal, thank you again. Brian, I would offer you the opportunity to provide some closing comments to the viewers and listeners.
Thank you very much. And, Kamal, to be honest, I wish all CBI developers were like you. You've built something, you have a product, it's identifiable. I have issues with it, but compare on the league of CBI projects, you're right up there. And the other one is Sagesse and Silver Sands. Again, issues with it here and there, but it is a successful project, and it is a long-term, hopefully sustainable project. And I hope yours, makes it. I hope so. We'll see. Time will tell.
We will, Brian. We will.
But the broader issue is the sale of our CBI, and as I've said it before, we are focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing on big, gleaming, shiny new hotels or whatever. Nobody knows. Where we're not focusing on the people. It is a sale of our patrimony, which means that we, the people, should get it. Should get the benefits. We should get the benefits in terms of improved healthcare, improved education, improved heritage. Fund the museum, fund the archive center. These things are where that money should go to, because we are selling passports and we're using this money for the future of our children. And on that matter, particularly this child, my granddaughter, Ray, it's her future that we have to be concerned about for all of these things. And it is for them that we have to use this money wisely, not just to fritter it away on some spaceship up in Levera. And on the final, as you mentioned, Kellon, I have a book coming out. And
yes,
my
you
wife
do.
called me a shameless self-promoter.
Shameless plug, yes.
Shameless. Where is it? There it is. It's called Song for My Father. And I'm coming back from the Bocas Literary Festival in Trinidad, where I'm presenting the book. And I'm coming back on the 1st of May with 100 hard copies. And it will also be available online, soft copy, and so forth.
You know,
I love support. Go ahead, Kamal. Go ahead.
Just add a little thing about our project, so because a lot of people doesn't know. We are very environmental closing, a project that even in operation. Plastic free, there is no plastic in there. Everything that will be recycled, everything. We have our own sewage treatment plant, and we will be mixing it with seaweed to make fertilizer and to be distributed, actually, by the way, to be distributed free to the farmers, because the production will be high. So we are, I think, the only the only hotel in the area that we have a big library that it will be open for public. In Intercontinental, I have a huge space called the Jewels of Grenada, where all products of Grenadian, I'm talking about good products like artists, like whatever it is, like something that
Brian's book.
Definitely. And there will be art gallery also for the art for how to exhibit, and this all for free. You know, we will not be charging anything on that. My now working the do you know who's making my artwork? It's a competition.
Abel. Well, it's Abel. I know Abel Mark.
No.
My adopted nephew.
Yeah, there is also what you call it. There is competition between the school children. The same. We have taken some Abel actually. You know, I don't like to talk about suffering of people. It was a shame not to have. By the way, he got his electrical chair and what you call it. He got his.
He got the wheelchair. Yes, I'm happy about that.
He got everything. Yes. So we are involved. I don't like to go PR because suffering with people is not something to show on TV.
We agree on that. If you're helping person, do it out of the kindness of your heart, not because everybody has to know that.
As I said, Brian, I would like to meet you. We can talk. We have a lot of common. We have disagreements, but I said, you know, this doesn't mean this. Why in every healthy system you have opposition and you have what you call it.
Come on, I'd like to meet you too, and I'll give you a copy of my book. It's only $5 million. Sure. 5 million.
well, Kamal, as I understand it, Brian does yachting. He does some sailing from time to time. So you guys should get together and sail together and have a meeting of the minds.
Believe me, I don't sail together. I don't sail with any. My life is my work. I'm working since I was 6 years old. And maybe you'll not believe.
But what do you do in your free time? Don't you have free time to have lunch or dinner?
It's either social working that I go from places. I sit with farmers. I sit with the new law. I sit with other thing. Other one.
Well, I think you should make some time.
I'm going to give you something to occupy your time.
I don't read.
It's actually a history of Grenada. So
when I finished my university, I took all the books and burned them and promised God that I will not open a book again.
All right. Okay. I get you.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, this was a very, very substantive conversation. I believe our viewers and listeners also enjoyed this engagement. This is the kind of engagement that I also enjoy, having a meeting of the minds on an issue as serious as development and the challenges that come with development, especially in respect of the current zeitgeist that Grenada is experiencing around CBI now. And Kamal and Brian, I want to thank both of you for appearing on the Bub Report this week. We hope to have you back because this is an ongoing conversation that we have committed ourselves here on the Bub Report to having. So, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And,
absolutely.
Thank you, Kellon. Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, viewers and listeners. Viewers and listeners, thank you again for tuning into this week's episode of the Bub Report. We thank you for your participation in this week's program. Remember, you can catch A repeat of the Bub Report on GBN TV this week at 5 p.m., as well as tonight at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 television. Thank you. I'm your host, Dr. Kellen Bub. On behalf of the producers of the program, we thank you for watching.